recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios, Meanjin, Brisbane.
On 102.1 FM.
And broadcast across Australia on the Community Radio Network.
You're listening to Zed Games.
Zed Games brings you the best in gaming news, reviews, community and culture. Want to reach out?
Share your hot take?
Or do you just want to share your favourite game?
Find us on socials at Zed Games AU.
Hello. You're listening to Zed Games. With me in the studio is
Maylee
and
Caroline.
And it is the first episode of 2025.
Woo! Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. And I feel like it's going off to a pretty sweet start.
Yeah.
We've got quite a lot to get through tonight, however, so we're going to get into that. This week in gaming news, Halo leaks. Digsite is a team of really dedicated modders and 343 employees whose goal is to recover cut content from Halo games and making them available for modders. And recently they've been experiencing some issues due to alleged poor treatment from Microsoft, as well as effectively working for free for a full-time project, resulting in people leaving due to burnout. However, someone has uncovered a decade of unreleased and pre-release content from Halo all the way up to Halo 3 and Reach, which is nearly 100 gigabytes worth of content entirely for free. Microsoft have not been super happy about this. They've been issuing DMCA notices to YouTube creators and Discord servers, which I think, it's kind of interesting. I love
Microsoft.
Preservation
have you
of games.
Being cool.
They have not.
Be chill.
They cannot.
Well, they should.
Well, yeah, they should.
Maybe for the New Year's resolution.
Microsoft companies, as a company, Microsoft's resolution should be to chill out.
Chill out.
Yeah, I like it. But there's other news.
There is other news. That is right, Maylee.
So, sadly, the Team 17 co-founder has passed away. That is Martin Brown, who co-founded Team 17. The co-founder who co-founded. He co-founded it in 1990 with Debbie Bestwick and Michael Robinson. He passed away in his sleep after battling a series of strokes at the age of 57. Games you might know him for that he helped create include Alien Breed, Full Contact, Miami Chase, and a personal favorite of mine, Worms.
Yeah. And Worms was a big part of, I think everyone listening kind of deal. It was just such a great couch multiplayer game, and you could pick it up so quickly and just go descend into chaos.
A lot of great memories with my siblings.
Yeah. It's very sad, but we got to I think listeners, go boot up Worms. Boot up Worms. Go boot up your Team 17 games and play one for Martin. Yeah. Caroline.
Yo,
what
we
have
have
next?
Yeah, we have the Steam Award winners, and they all suck. Honestly, Game of the Year was Black Myth Wukong. Best game you suck at, Black Myth Wukong.
Not wrong.
Outstanding Story Witch game.
I know this one.
Yeah.
Black Myth Wukong.
Yes.
Wow.
VR Game of the Year, Metro Awakening, Labor of Love, Elden Ring, Best Game of Steam Deck, God of War Ragnarok, Better with Friends, Helldivers 2, Outstanding Visual Style, Silent Hill 2, Most Innovative Gameplay, Liar's Bar, Best Soundtrack, Red Dead Redemption for some reason, Sit Back and Relax, Farming Simulator 25.
Okay, you can say what you want about all of the other games. I won't stand for hate on Farming Simulator 25.
Sit back. I think that's the one I agree with.
That's the one valid one. None of the games that I voted for won anything.
And we got some little news nibbles to sort of round out the news.
Yum. Stardew Valley has hit 41 million sales.
Woo!
Classic.
And I am at least 3 of those.
Ooh.
I am none of those. I think I had it bought for me.
I'm 2 of those.
Yeah.
Well, there's still a sale that's kind of contributed to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And English-speaking Genshin Impact fans might have a bad time during the 5.3 update, according to a leak. There appears to be no English voiceovers, which is, well, it is what it is.
That's Genshin.
Maybe just learn a different language.
Yeah. And stop playing Genshin.
For your New Year's resolution, stop playing Genshin or learn a new language.
Pick one.
But speaking of games, upcoming game releases, maybe just play a game you're already going. It's a little bit quiet at this time of the year. Yeah, just go into your Steam library, find something that you haven't touched, and give it a whirl. You might surprise.
There's definitely something in there.
Yeah.
Be honest.
There is at least
so many things.
At least 3.
I'm wondering how long. What's like the oldest game that I bought? Because I've had my Steam account since like 2012.
Ooh.
What's the longest game that I've had that I haven't opened?
You know what?
It's probably back there.
Well,
it's probably a long time ago.
Well, listeners, maybe play the oldest game that you own that you haven't already played. See what you thought was you were going to play 10 years ago, and see what you think of it now. Might be interesting.
Find out.
Up next, we have an interview with Richard Garfield for the upcoming game Vanguard Exiles. So, Pa Zahra, take it away. Joining me from T Division, I have Richard Garfield, designer of Netrunner, King of Tokyo, and defined the trading card game genre with Magic the Gathering. Thank you for joining us today, Richard.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
Why don't you tell me a bit about Vanguard Exiles?
Well, Vanguard Exiles is an auto battler. I've been working with the T game group for a while now on it, and I adore auto battlers. They've filled this hole in my digital gaming where they really feel like board games, analog games, but they're integral to the computer. You need the computer to run them, and so they really feel fresh to me, and they feel at the same time very familiar, because when I'm playing one, I feel like I'm playing a board game, but it's a new experience. And so this is what inspired me to start thinking about auto battlers, and Vanguard Exiles is an auto battler where there's a map which you're competing for, and you drop your army in the map, and then they wander around having a battle, and it resolves. You score some points, you get some gold, you buy some cards, and you repeat. And so what really got me excited about this was this idea of this map being an integral part of the game. It feels very exciting and very different to me, because most auto battlers take place either in a featureless arena or just a line of cards beating up on each other.
Yeah, so what makes Vanguard Exiles different to other auto battlers? I know that the map constantly changes in Vanguard Exiles, is that right?
Yeah, every time you play, the map is different, and you have to adapt your strategy to the changing map. So sometimes it'll be a long, thin corridor, other times it'll be a tree, sometimes there'll be some terrain which you can't deploy your units in, so if you want it, you've got to sort of deploy it nearby. There's rooms which are traps or treasure rooms, and they'll change the dynamics. As you play, you begin out with a relatively small dungeon, and every round a new room opens up, and occasionally rooms go away. So you get this sort of sense, you get familiar with the terrain you're fighting in. At the same time, it's getting more complicated, and got a lot of variety entering the game at the same time.
Yeah, so you can't be too comfortable with the map. You have to be on top of things as it keeps changing.
Yeah, so different areas will be important. As the game goes along, you'll have a lot of battles in a particular junction, for example, or a particular very valuable room, but then it gets cut off. So now if you go there, your people are isolated, so it becomes less important. Or the junction goes away, and now it's not a critical linchpin anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, the map changes, you get familiar with it, and then it changes again.
Awesome. Sort of expanding on that, describe the world of Vanguard Exiles. What is this universe that you've created with T Division?
So I referred to this as dungeons, and they feel like dungeons, but really they're trenches, or at least that's where you start, because this is sort of a World War I diesel punk fantasy game. So it's got a really, I think, a fresh flavor. There's a lot of sort of steampunk, diesel punk types of elements, like big armored tanks and sort of a World War One-ish look. My particular favorite is the elves. So you have a picture in your mind of what elves are like in games, and these elves sort of have more of I think, a Soviet feel, and they have radiation weapons, and they have bows also, and range types of things, but they've got this sort of early 20th century science feel to them.
Oh, I like that. That's a fun spin.
Yeah. So every battle you begin in the trenches, but the trenches lead into abandoned temples and dungeons and caves and things like that. So you never know where it's going to end up, but you begin out in the trenches and sort of the rooms get added and gives you sort of a flavor of the world.
So Vanguard Exiles has a 2D art style that mixes cards and some dungeon crawler elements, which brings the cards to life. How did that art style develop? Does it differ a lot to the initial vision, or is it sort of like how it was initially visualized?
Well, that's Wes, who does our art, I believe, was the person who presented that, and we all loved it. I didn't have a preconception, so it didn't vary from my lack of preconception, I guess. My main concerns with art in games and digital games in particular is that they don't obscure what's going on. And so the 2D art look is very clean. It makes it so you can recognize the units easily. And so it has a nice flavor, but at the same time allows you to really digest the situation. It's certainly something that I try to avoid, is where everything looks good, but then you can't really tell what's going on. So I think he's come up with a look which really lends itself to the play of the game.
Yeah, I would agree. It reads very well and very clearly. You can tell which units are which and be able to read the situation quite clearly. What has it been like working with T Division on this project?
It's been marvelous working with T on it. They've done a lot of good interpretation of what I was looking for. So, for example, the map we ended up with is sort of a hexagonal structure. And that isn't exactly what I drew it out as, but it turned out to be a very modular way to present it, which meant we could do this thing where we add rooms and take away rooms easily. And they drove that map development. And so they've been real partners with me as far as exploring where the game can go, which is good because the game really does have a lot of things which we don't have models to look at. So there's no game that really looks very much like this. And so that means that we have to spend more time sort of exploring what feels right. And they've been driving that. And I could have imagined working with somebody who would be frustrated by it, but they've really joined me as a partner in that process.
That's really awesome. I understand that there's a bit of community involvement with Vanguard Exiles. Did you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we've released a demo on Steam, and early access, I think, is January. Anyway, early next year, Q1 next year. And the community has sprung up around it, and we've been having competitions, and because it takes a lot of work to get things like this balanced, because there's so much going on, and people can spot things which either don't work properly because we hadn't anticipated certain combinations, or are too powerful, or never get played with. There's no point in having units that everybody's disappointed with. Everything should have a place. And so, one of the reasons we wanted to do the demo and to get the early access out there is because we want to really involve the community in the development. Games like this, which I like to call massively modular games, really benefit from getting a community playing it very early enough that you can make changes based on what's needed.
I like that, massively modular games. So the game is about to launch into early access. I have here in my notes that's early 2025. Already the game has quite a lot to it so far. What is the state of the game at this point in time?
Well, there's Oh, I've got to separate what's in the demo from what's in the early access from what I intend to be there in the long run. I believe there's 4 factions which have been released so far. Does that sound right, or is it 3?
It was either 3 or 4.
We've got 4 made. I'm not sure if 4 have been released yet, and we've got sort of some others in the pipe. And these factions, they've got a lot of units and a lot of actions. And players, when they play, they'll have a unique army of their own, which at this point consists of 1 primary faction and 1 secondary faction. And part of the plan is that as you play your armies, you will learn what makes it tick, what the best way to use that army is. Do you wait around for your key cards, or do you build up money in anticipation of getting these important cards, or perhaps you put out quick and disposable units? How you approach things will depend on what your specific strengths and weaknesses are, as well as what the trenches look like, and also what your opponent's doing. So anyway, the early access game right now is you play against the AI, and there's many different levels of challenge for it. So you work your way up the ladder and try to defeat it on harder and harder difficulties. And you can try to do this with multiple different armies. What we're looking for in early access is to get the PvP going, where you can challenge your deck against somebody else's.
That's where a lot of the fun will be, I think. I have in my notes that there's going to be, or that there are daily challenges in the game.
That's correct. Each player, as I said, all the armies you play with are unique, and so you'll get unique AI armies to attempt to defeat. And some of them will be easier than others, and so you might have to adapt. You will have to adapt your strategy based on your deck and what the daily challenge is.
So you obviously have quite a lot of experience with designing games. Were there any challenges that you experienced with Vanguard Exiles that you had to overcome?
Well, there's always challenges to overcome. There were plenty of challenges because we were exploring territory that was new to me. But an illustration of one of those is how the map works. There was an idea that the map would be random every time, and with certain algorithms, it would become too much for people to digest each turn, and it began to bog down. And if with too little variation, then it became sort of stagnant. And so getting the random map to reveal itself at the right pace and have a certain amount of stability was something that we had to work through, and we got it to a place which I really like it. Then setting the length of the game is a really interesting challenge for a game like this, because you do want it to play pretty quickly, because games like this are often at their best when you finish it and you play again, because you want to see how your deck plays twice in a row, 3 times in a row. You want to adapt your play to what the nature of the challenge is. And so you want to get the play to be pretty tight, pretty quick, but at the same time, you also want to get this sort of epic feel, because the maps you can have, they get sort of this sprawling maze feel. And it seemed like a shame to sort of cut that off too early when it's sort of getting really interesting and there's all these different key points. So getting that balance correct, it has been a challenge, and I think it's an ongoing challenge. I think we've got it in the good ballpark, but there's still tinkering to be done.
Okay. Are there any specific features or mechanics that you're particularly proud of?
Well, the way the units behave, I quite like. The way they work in general is they sit in a room and they fight anybody in the room or that they can see, and they'll do that until, well, they don't exist, or until they're alone in the room, and then they'll claim the room, and then they start wandering around the map. And this simple algorithm allowed us to get a lot of very interesting behavior. So, for example, there are units which don't wait around to capture, they just move on. And so they're very good for causing chaos in the enemy ranks, but they're not very good for capturing rooms. And other units don't really care whether they're fighting friend or foe. And so you want to put them pretty far from you, because their purpose is to So if you put them too close to you and they happen to wander into your area, they can be a disaster. It's nothing sort of worse than hitting yourself.
Yeah.
And so we had the traditional mechanics of things like taunting were very interesting because in a room, if you've got a taunter, you can protect your range strikers and your people who are healing and so forth. But it made an effective action too. We call it bounty. So you can put a bounty on somebody and then they get taunt, which is a good thing to do on the opponent's glass cannons.
Yeah.
And then there's the opposite of taunt, which is a stealth. And then those are units which are attacked with negative priority. So you won't ever hit them as long as there's somebody else to hit. So they'll hang around for a longer time.
Okay.
But alone, they're kind of vulnerable.
Yeah, I can see that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, and I'm happy to talk about games in the future.
No worries. And you take care. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now, the folks at T Division wanted to do something a little special for our Zed heads. If you wish list Vanguard Exiles on Steam, you'll go into the draw where 3 4ZZZ subscribers will win an early access key for Vanguard Exiles once it enters early access early this year.
In addition, one of those 3 will win an authenticated Soul Ring card from Magic the Gathering, signed by Richard Garfield. To enter, you need to wishlist Vanguard Exiles on Steam and email zedgames@4zzz.org.au with your Steam username and 4ZZZ sub number. You have until the end of January.
Yep, and if you're not sure if Vanguard Exiles is for you, they have a demo out on Steam right now, so just pop on over, give it a play, see what you think.
You're listening to Zed Games at 4ZZZ.
You're listening to Zed Games on 4ZZZ.
Oi mate, you're listening to Zed Games at 4ZZZ.
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 Got a bit carried away.
Next up, we have a review by our very own Caroline.
Yo!
Take it away.
I'm taking it away. I'm running away. It's TCG Card Shop Simulator by OP Neon Games. It is a game in early access that was released out onto early access on the 15th of September 2024 this year. And you run a little card shop. And you sell cards, but you can also open card packs, which guess what I have been doing the vast majority of my time. My card shop could be a lot bigger if I didn't keep sampling the product, as it were. But you can sell the cards that you pull. If you get a really nice rare one, you can sell it for a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's also like a market, so you can keep up with market trends, but I don't bother with that. I just installed a mod that will auto price all the things.
Whoa.
Because boy howdy, some of the game is very tedious, and that's why there's a good modding scene to fix the things that are a little bit not fun.
Do you want to walk us through what the process is like from opening the cards to selling the cards?
All right.
Or not selling the cards?
You have a little app on your phone. You have a phone in-game, a phone on your computer. And then you order things. They instantly arrive in boxes, and then you can put them on shelves that you have bought to sell to people who come in, and they will buy your things. You can mark things up by certain percentages, but people won't buy stuff that's too expensive. Mm-hmm. And if you price it too cheap, you get ripped off. You use the products to unlock new products to sell. And there's also stinky people. So you have to buy air freshener and spray them in the face before they drive away your other customers because they're too stinky.
This simulator is a little too.
So in game, I have leapt over the tables that I have set up for people playing the game, to spray someone in the face. Quite often this occurs. You can also buy air freshener things. There's a lot of, you can buy things to automate things so that you can spend your time doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the air freshener that I have was a bit cheap and doesn't fully de-stink people, so I have to give them just the last little spritz so that they stop emitting the clouds of stank.
I see.
Yes. There are many mods available for this because it being a card game. So you can get mods like Pokemon, One Piece, Digimon, whatever other card games there are. I have not installed the Pokemon one because
you do that in real life.
I couldn't get it to work and I got frustrated and gave up.
Oh. I really thought it was because you already collect so many Pokemon cards in real life.
There were some mod conflicts and I got confused and gave up.
Oh.
But the mods I have are the automatic pricing, so that the cashiers scan stuff all at once, because otherwise you have to sit there and watch the cashier going beep, beep. And that was infuriating. And the upping the speed of the card openings, because otherwise you are sort of stuck in the card opening animation, and if someone wants to buy something from you while you're opening cards and you're stuck there, they can get annoyed. Understandable.
If I was like in a card game shop and I wanted to buy some cards and the employee there was like opening cards and ignoring me,
I was like, sorry, I would love to cancel. Yeah, there was just a few confusing things. Like I got stuck with a air freshener can and couldn't figure out how to put it down because the game didn't tell me at all. I had to, I'll tab out and look up how to put it down, which was a bit annoying. There's a few, it's a bit jank, but like I said, early access. Yeah. There's a roadmap of things that are going to be implemented, but in lieu of that, there's mods.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's quite fun. I stayed up to 5 a.m. last night playing it.
Caroline!
And then I woke up at midday and started playing it again. I just, listen, I need to upgrade my shop, but I keep getting distracted by opening all the card packs, and I want to collect them all.
Totally understandable.
So it replaces real life addiction with game addiction, and you know what? For a game that is $18.95 full price, it's 25% off now. I'd say that's pretty good.
I'll save you money in the long run.
Although I didn't actually buy this. Toby gave it to me because he knows me.
Beautiful. That's what we call harm reduction, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a new year. You can be whoever you want to be. You can play whatever games you want. You can have a grand time. You're not allowed to have a bad time, though.
What if I wanted to play the PT demo?
That is how you get a bad time. But also, it's not impossible. That's what I will say. We are actually coming up to the end of the episode. I just wanted to give a reminder for folks, and you're keen to get in on an early access key, make sure that you wishlist Vanguard Exiles on Steam and email zedgames@4zzz.org.au with your Steam username and 4ZZZ sub number. You have until the end of January. I guess that's it. That's the end of the show for tonight.
Thanks for listening in to our first show of the year.
Yeah. For listeners at home, I hope you have a fantastic start of the gaming year.
And for those listeners who aren't at home, well,
I also
have a fantastic start to the gaming year. Gaming cheer for everyone.
Yeah, wherever you are.
All right, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Zed Games. If you'd like to listen to more, you can find us on the Community Radio Plus app
or find us on socials at Zed Games AU.
See you next time.